Hi, welcome back to Heels in Business. It is now about 6 weeks until we finally leave for the USA. Hopefully. Here's hoping we actually do leave this time. But I thought I would share with you how we are preparing for the move and 10 key things that you should consider when moving to the USA. In terms of the 10 key things you need to remember, I've put this in order of how it's pretty much affected my move to the USA. And number one, and the most important thing you need, is your visa. And not just your visa, the visa that you need for all your family members. And that has pretty much been the reason our move to the USA has been delayed this past year. So please do consider what type of visa you're getting, how you need to apply, what you need to apply, and get that first. Next is location in the USA. Now, as you may know, we were originally going to California, but have now decided on Las Vegas or Las Vegas. If you want to know more on the reason why we've picked Las Vegas, please do check that video out. But next, you do really need to finalize your location because pretty much every logistics from this point of view is based on the location you're going to. Next is shipping. Now, pretty much everything will center around that shipping date from the UK to the USA. As some of you may know, some of our things were already picked up and is currently in storage. For us at the moment, our final, fingers crossed, pack and load is booked for the first week of March. And now we have started to just finalize the last bits that need to go in that pack and load. We have a virtual tour with White & Company booked for next week. Obviously, because of the pandemic, nobody can, they're trying to limit the amount of interaction. So they'll do a virtual tour of the final things that need to go. And what else? E-bikes. We both have e-bikes now. We didn't have e-bikes last year. This has meant that we've needed to provide what they call a material data safety sheet for our bikes. And it just allows them to understand the transportation requirements, whether it's going via sea or air. If you're in that same position of you have an e-bike, you will find that you don't typically get that sheet with your bike. So you will need to contact the manufacturer, and that's pretty much what we've done. And I've just got lots of forms to fill in for shipping, which I've been leaving to the last minute at the moment. With the shipping dates all sorted, next we could actually book our flights. Woohoo! Pretty excited about that. And I felt quite emotional when I booked the flight. So we've now have our flights booked with BA. Funny story, within about 12 hours of booking our flights, we had a cancellation email from BA. And they'd rebooked us to the next day, but then that sent alarm bells ringing for both of us. I then looked into the flights, the outbound flights for BA from Heathrow to Las Vegas or Las Vegas, and realized that they haven't been running that flight pretty much since last year. There's been a couple of flights that have gone. That meant I had to call BA to find out the situation. It looks like that they're planning on running a direct flight in March. We just don't know when. So we've taken a gamble and we've rebooked on another direct flight that they're planning to go ahead. But we are just conscious of the fact that that's probably going to cancel or be cancelled. But worst case, it's fine. We'll just get a connecting flight because they have been consistently running everyday flights to San Francisco. Yes, if we was going to California, we would be fine. Dallas, Chicago. So if it comes to it, last minute, we'll just change to one of those. Next, you need to consider what you're doing with your UK home. Now, that will typically depend on whether you're currently renting out or you own your property. Now, if you're renting, you just have to end that rental agreement and give them the required notice. In our case, we own our property. We decided that we didn't want to sell it, that we wanted to put it up for rent. We've done that already, and it's already leased out, or let out, I should say, and that's all sorted. So that tenant will be moving in a couple of weeks after we move out. This leads to the next thing, which is your banking. And because we are renting out a few properties in the UK, we needed to consider that we still need a UK bank account to receive that income in. And that in itself led to a whole discovery of the rules around UK banking when you're not a UK resident. In our case, we found out that some UK banks allow you to have a US address against that account and others don't. Fortunately for us, Nationwide, who we bank with, does allow you to put in a US address, and you can do that all online. So that's great. So we can maintain that account. The other factor that I started to think about is, okay, well, what if we need access to that money? What are the costs involved? And are there better banks to have in terms of being able to transfer the money from a UK bank account to a US bank account? Now, originally, I thought I would go with a HSBC, as when I looked online, they advertise that you can have a UK bank account, a US bank account, and there are no transfer fees, which sounds great. So initially I rung HSBC to set this up, and that was a world of pain. Their customer services is awful. And then consequently found out anyway that there are other services that are much cheaper. So recommendation here is, do not always believe that these banks that offer low or no transfer fees as the best route. TransferWise is a company that has been highly recommended on all the forums. I've done some small investigations on different varying amounts, and they do seem to be much cheaper. And that's simply because of the exchange rate they offer. So whilst they might charge you a transfer fee, their exchange rate is much better than, say, using HSBC. So we will use that service. Other things I've factored in is any accounts that we can't have the US address, I'll probably close. But any accounts that we can keep, I will, just because it will be a lot harder if we come back to the UK and need to open an account again. This leads naturally into the next key thing that you need to think about, and that is your taxes. Fortunately for me, as part of my relocation package, I get accountancy services from Deloitte, and they offer a consultant for the UK and the US to help me with my filing for the first year. And in doing that, they've provided us with lots of information, and we've realised that there are tax implications that we definitely need to be aware of. Yes, for our property that we're renting out, and obviously if we ever sell, how does that affect us? But in particular, we found out about the implications of ISAs. So ISAs in the UK are individual savings account that we benefit from a tax wrapper, which effectively becomes null and void when you're in the US, because you will be liable for tax on those savings accounts. In our situation, our ISA is a stocks and shares ISA, which then leads to even more complications in terms of what is in that stocks and share ISA, whether you're investing into singles companies, are they mutual funds, ETFs, REITs. So yeah, slightly more complicated. We are learning. I'm not going to go into this video, but we are meeting with Deloitte in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll establish what's the best way to manage our taxes. Basically, tax planning. Now we're pretty much set on all the things that we need to set up in readiness to move in the UK. Next, we need to think about how we're setting up our lives in the USA. And the first thing is obviously, where are we going to live? And for me, fortunately, with the relocation package, I get 45 days where the company will cover me in temporary accommodation. Whilst we're in that temporary accommodation, that will fortunately give us time to look into the areas. We definitely do not want to sign ourselves up to any form of a rental agreement for 6 months or a year without actually knowing the area, the property. So we'll use that 45 days to find somewhere. We also have what they call a destinations consultant, who will essentially assist with helping us find our longer term property, but also other things like social security number, which we need in order to get a US bank account, and she will help with that. Once we have our US bank account, we will then look into also getting our driver's license from the DMV, which I've learnt this week means we need to take a written test and a driving test. But apparently it's super easy, so we should be good there. Although not super easy because you need a car And this is the interesting thing. So you need your own car to get your driving license, but then I'm not really clear on kind of like the order, because if you haven't got a license, how do you get a car? Yeah, bit confusing, and you can't use a rental car either. So the second to last thing, and I would say this is very important and needed from day one of landing in the USA, is your medical plan. And coming from the UK, this has been a complete learning curve. It's not something that we're used to here with the NHS. So this week I have been trying to educate myself on how the medical plans work. Now, typically in the US, if your employer will provide you with various options on medical plans. In my case, I had a benefits person explain it to me this week, and she tried to break it down quite simply, but I'm learning, so bear with me. Essentially, there are different types of plans, and depending on where you live can determine the plans that are available to you. In my case, I had a particular plan that was dedicated to the state of Nevada. I think it's called the Health Plan of Nevada. But I also had other plans such as Anthem, which is available irrespective of where you are. And essentially, when you're going through this process, you are comparing things like the deductible on the plan. So that's the minimum amount that you have to spend before other factors kick in, the out-of-pocket expenses for any plan, the per monthly cost of the plan, co-pays. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this video. I'm just trying to give you an idea, but most likely when I get my head around it, I will share with you kind of my education and the plan that I picked for myself. And before we get to number 10, please do not forget to subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. In number 10, and it's quite important, relax and don't stress. Moving can be incredibly stressful. There's so many things, so many forms. Even in this the last couple of weeks, there's so many things that I hadn't even thought about, like the banking or the tax implications. So try and not let it stress you out. I personally have chosen to write lots of lists so that I can keep on top of everything and check things off. But please, the best thing, don't stress, stay excited about it, and just enjoy it, because this is a great opportunity. So there you have it, my 10 key things to think about when moving to the USA. Let me know what you think by commenting below. Thank you for watching.